Hi, I'm Weighton. I'm a textile artist. I'm based in Penarth. My work tends to be around buildings and places that I've lived or that I have some sort of connection with. And I work with print, paint and stitch. In 2018, I had a commission from Rookwood Hospital in Cardiff. The first thing I noticed when I walked into Rookwood Hospital was that there was a mosaic, like an Italian mosaic on the floor with the words salve, heal. That sort of really structured the piece of work that I created for that project. I actually became ill myself with pneumonia and I ended up in hospital. People sent me lots of messages. I started thinking actually maybe I should create some sort of medals or stitched pieces relating to the words that people had sent me, because that really helped with my recovery. I was thinking about the collection here at St Fagan and thinking about the fact that there's a lot of samplers here in the Weighton. And I've got a sampler myself, which was given to me by someone called Nada Lazic. One of the things she did bring with her from Yugoslavia was the Slovenian alphabet. The thing about language again, because when I looked at that word salve, I looked into what that sort of the connotations of that, what that meant. So it's a word that you hear in lots of different languages. And I was also thinking about the samplers in St Fagan and the fact that it's quite rare to see the Welsh language. Language has different meanings to people. You might speak a different language, or there might be a word in another language that's more relevant to you that you could include in your stitched medal. I'm just going to show you what materials you'll need to actually create a little stitched medal. So first of all, some embroidery needles. Embroidery needles are the ones who've got a slightly longer hole in them, so that it's easier to thread. Some thread, ideally embroidery floss, but if you haven't got that, you could double up some normal polyester thread and that would work quite well. Some pins, some sharp scissors if possible, some sort of safety pin. I use some kilt pins for some of them. If you use one, a thimble, and some Pritt stick and also some pinking shears. If you want to embellish your wording with some sort of foliage, some really fine printed fabric. I've just got some tiny pieces here. These pens, you draw onto fabric with them and then you put water on it and then whatever you've drawn disappears. Pritt stick. And also some thicker fabric. So I've got some felt here and some thin fabric, cotton. I've got an old pillowcase that I use for most of these. So most of my medals are created using pillowcases. And I've actually thought of words to do with the pandemic. And I've actually just printed them out on the computer and used a font that's quite sort of curvy. I literally put the fabric on top of the different fonts and then trace through. Use an embroidery wheel and you just trap the lettering that you've created. Then you take some thread, so this is embroidery floss and it's doubled up with a knot at the end, and you literally stitch through. Now there's a few different stitches you could use. I tend to use running stitch or back stitch. And one tip when I'm stitching writing is never to start from the first letter of the word, but to actually start from the last letter, because then you stop thinking about the fact that you're stitching a word out. Once you've got to this stage where you've stitched out your word, you might want to use a wet flannel and just put it over this so that the blue underneath disappears. And I use some felt. Use the outside of the embroidery hoop as a guide. And then again, use the magic pen and drew around the outside shape of this. And I just use some pinking shears. Then you have like a template like that. This is a Welsh word, araf, slow. I use a slightly different stitch here. But then I I've embellished it quite a lot, so I use lots of little pieces of fabric, and using the template, I actually just cut out little bits of fabric of flowers and stuck them around the outside of the word. And then I stitched into that as well. So this is actually fabric collage that I've collaged into this, and then I've stitched on top to create sort of foliage. And I also used a few different knots. So I used some French knots to sort of make some of it stand out here. So once you got to that stage where you've got a piece that you're happy with, that you're finished with, then use the felt template. I'll just move that one out of the way. And then you literally put this on top of there using the magic pen again. Then you might want to use another piece of fabric then, almost like, I've got some ribbon here, just to make a tag. And then it's starting to look like the actual medal. And then what you end up with is a piece that, for most of them, I actually created blanket stitch around the edge. Again, double up the thread, but not at the end.